Welcome everyone to Introduction to GCP Google Cloud Platform. So to introduce myself very quickly, I'm Robbie Shaw. I'm a BI and analytics consultant based out of Singapore. I was previously with Thorogood UK in London, but moved to Singapore 6 months ago. And my contact details are on screen. If anything on this webcast interests you, or if you just want to stay connected or reach out to me about anything in the data and AI space, do feel free to get in contact with me. That's why the stuff is up there on screen. So to give a breakdown of how the next 30 minutes or so is going to go, I'm going to give an intro to Thorogood. I'm going to give an overview around GCP, how they started, where they are now. Then I'm going to focus in more about GCP's products, specifically the sort of architecture pattern, end-to-end solution design around data engineering and data visualization. Then I'll give a quick demo to give you a feel of the Google Cloud Console. Then I'll come back, spend a little bit of time to look at GCP's data science, advanced analytics, AI, ML capabilities, as well as look at the key partnership most quite recently announced between GCP and Databricks. And then finally, I'll finish with how we can get you started and what we can all do as next steps. So Thorogood, who are we? We're an independent customer-oriented consultancy. Specifically, we're specialists in data engineering, data science, and data visualization. So what we do is we like to really bring together those three bubbles there. So analytics knowledge, technical knowledge, industry knowledge around businesses, but also specifically working really closely with businesses to understand their individual goals, their niche patterns. Every business is different, and we think if we can really understand what a business wants to do and work closely with that business, we can help solve some of their key problems with technology and analytics. We operate globally, so obviously I've talked about our London office and our Singapore office, but also we have offices in the US, Brazil, and India as well. And we offer different types of consulting work. So obviously a lot of what we do is full application design, development, and support, but also we do a lot of training as well. So upskilling in-house teams within companies and organizations, planning, business modeling, and maybe even strategies and roadmaps is something we've been doing a lot recently. So how do you lay your data strategy to sort of effectively perform over the next 1, 2, 3, 5 or more years? Thorogood can help with all of those types of consulting services. What technologies do we work with? Front and center there is Google Cloud, given the nature of the webcast, but we're also really experienced in AWS and Azure. Azure is obviously Microsoft's cloud platform, and we are a Microsoft Gold partner with seven gold competencies. Additionally, we're really strongly partnered with Databricks. Databricks is a unified analytics platform that's becoming increasingly popular. It's a really great tool, and it only really runs on 3 cloud platforms. And luckily, those are the 3 cloud platforms that we work with. For an overview of the Google Cloud Platform, first of all, Google was founded in 1998. I would like to assume if you're watching this, you're familiar with who Google are, and you'll be aware that they're pretty good with data. So GCP first came online in 2008 with the launch of this one product called App Engine, which was a developer tool that allowed customers to run web applications on Google infrastructure. To provide a sort of timing context around this was 2 years after Amazon launched S3 and EC2, so really started its cloud computing journey. Amazon, obviously, you might be familiar, had a bit more of a head start and has become a market leader, but GCP is really catching up. So now in 2022, they have 100 plus services. They have a really nicely designed, nice user experience cloud console. So it's a very usable tool that shows the investment and the couple of years of maturity that have gone into it, making it really usable. It's highly intuitive, and they've also invested strongly in their cloud infrastructure. So obviously having data centers around the world, being able to support specific data residency rules and have proximity to customers wherever they are in the world. Where does GCP at the minute sit in terms of the cloud market? So obviously we turn to Gartner's Magic Quadrant for any reference around overall industry. And Google is a leader in in this space, but it is behind Microsoft and Amazon Web Services. This is natural given Amazon had, it's I think relatively famous, had a 7-year head start. Azure was the one that sort of tried to follow them quicker, and Google is slightly later to the game. But they are both investing to catch up with Amazon Web Services. By the latest estimates, GCP is estimated to have around 7% of the cloud market share. This is significantly smaller than AWS and Azure, but similar estimates had GCP around 3% 2.5 years ago. So what is that telling us? It's more than doubling to 2.5 years. And that's pretty impressive that it's growing even within an industry that's growing so fast itself. And who can blame them for trying to up their market share when Gartner's predicting 474 billion in cloud revenue in 2022. On to the GCP products. So this is the developer's cheat sheet. I'm not going to talk about individual tools on this. I'm not even sure if you could make them out. But what I do want to call out are the certain sections. So first of all, on the bottom left, hybrid and multi-cloud. So multi-cloud is sort of a theme that I'll keep touching on throughout this webcast, that GCP really see multi-cloud as one of the ways they can really break in and gain a larger market share. A company that's invested multiple years into one cloud platform aren't suddenly going to just randomly migrate it over to GCP. But GCP know they might be able to get a sliver of the cloud to start off with, maybe around leveraging their AI and ML services. But to do that, they want to be able to make themselves as available to a multi-cloud architecture at an organization as they can. So they're putting effort into that. Second, which I've touched on, is the number of AI and ML offerings. So you can see that in the section just to the right of the Google Cloud logo. Google are really bringing a lot of the expertise they have in AI and ML and making it available to users of the Google Cloud platform. And again, other areas where they've really strived and become experts and world leaders. So for example, Google Maps, if you look at the top right there, the Google Maps platform. So again, they're making their expertise and their sort of USPs available to users in the Google Cloud to attract them over. So for example, Google Maps platform can be really useful in sort of offering route suggestions or maybe giving estimated delivery times, which could be really useful for, I don't know, last mile delivery, supply chain companies, something like that. But basically the idea is here that Google are making a lot of their technical advances available to Google Cloud Platform customers. With that, I've just discussed the tools, but how does it really fit into something resembling an overall data architecture from source of data all the way through to surfacing data insights to business users? So typically what you want is you have your data sources, you want to ingest them, store them cheaply. That's part of what the cloud's about, in a storage that can scale up and accept basically as much data as you want to pump into it. Then you want to be able to provide a semantic model from where you can then link your dashboards so that you can provide the detail and information to business users. So first things first, Google does have a cloud storage tool, as you might expect. So it's called cloud storage, and basically this is where you would create your buckets and you would have maybe your bronze, silver, gold, or your raw, process, enriched, basically your multiple data layers where you're going to cleanse and transform and enrich and improve your data as it moves through the layers. How do you get data in there from source? There's a whole litany of tools available to do that. So just to call out some, so for streaming ingestion, you could use PubSub or you could use Dataflow. Dataflow does batch and streaming processing, so you can use Dataflow for batch, maybe for flat files that you're uploading from some user source, maybe. Data Fusion is more of a drag and drop. I'm not calling out these as the specific tools you should 100% definitely use. I'm just giving an idea of what can be done and just a suggestion of a pattern. But obviously, depending on the nature of your data, the nature of your organization, these tools might change and swap in. Cloud Composer would be your sort of overall data orchestration tool as well. And then whenever you want to push that to your semantic model and be able to do some sort of data reporting, data visualization, that's where Google's BigQuery comes in. So it's an in-memory data warehousing service that enables large-scale analysis for both data engineering and data science. Interestingly as well, going back to the multi-cloud theme, GCP also offers something called BigQuery Omni, which allows you to access data from GCP, Azure, or AWS data stores. So again, really showing that Google are pretty intent on this multi-cloud focus. And then in terms of data visualization, Looker was an acquisition by Google, and it's a really strong data preparation and data presentation tool. Data Studio is maybe just around the visualization, less good on the data prep skills. I think Looker is the more popular tool out of the two. But additionally, BigQuery does have connectors to Power BI, Tableau, and Qlik. So if your organization's pretty much already set up the reporting and have decided on, best practices and design patterns, dashboard, general setups, that type of thing, you can still link in with, say, Power BI or Tableau if that's what your organization is used to dealing with. I'll move on to the demo now. And the idea is we're going to do a simple data flow from cloud storage to BigQuery. And it's not going to be very complex, but the idea is just to give you a tour of the GCP console. I'll open my Google Chrome browser, and to get there, you need to just go console.cloud.google.com. And what you have here, what you land on is your dashboard for the specific project you're working. So you've got the Google Cloud Platform, you select your project. We've just created this environment for this webcast, so that's why there's only 2 projects in. And you get a sort of nice non-numeric ID as well, which will come in handy later on because it's used quite frequently. And yeah, here you've got project info, billing info, requests, you've got quick links to your commonly used resources, all that type of thing, as you might expect in your sort of landing page when you first land into the platform. And additionally, you can pin the tools that you're used to go into as well here on the side. But what I've done is I already have all my tabs open. So first, I'm going to show the cloud storage. So with the cloud storage, you have buckets. That's where you store your data. It's very easy to create a bucket, and there's lots of different configurations, as you might expect in an enterprise level cloud platform. So you can name your bucket. You can choose where to store it. So you can store it across multiple regions, or you can pick one region, all around data security. And obviously, the cost will change if you go for multi-region. You choose a storage class depending on how often you want to access the data, how much you're willing to spend on it. So if it's going to be a data set you're going to be accessing every single day, standard's probably best. It might be a bit more expensive, but it's going to be quicker to access. Whereas if you put something into archive, if you're not going to access it that often, it doesn't matter that it's quite slow to get it, and it's a lot cheaper to store as well. Then you have different access controls, so you can just have full access to the bucket and everything within it, or you can have fine-grained where it's individual objects you provide access to as well. Basically all different types of options, depends on what type of data you're storing, who you want to have access to it, etc. And then there's some prevention of data loss options as well here. But what I want to do is go into a bucket we've already made. Again, within this cloud storage is where you'd have your sort of raw, processed, and enriched data. It's a very simple demo, so I just have one folder called US population. And in there, I have a CSV that looks like it's just state names and their population at 10-year intervals. I think these are the census states. So just going back, I have that CSV there. And I have my data movement transformations, which contains a Python script. And that Python script is what we're going to use to lift data from here in cloud storage. We're going to lift that states data, and we're actually going to add a calculated column to it as part of the transformation process. And we're going to write that to BigQuery. We're going to write it to this data set here. So you can see there's a UPG demo backup, but that's the only table. And we're going to write a new table there. So to activate this Python script, we're going to reconnect to our Cloud Shell, and I'm just going to quickly set up the environment. Okay. And then what I'm doing is I'm creating a job named DemoFlow 2022, today's date. And basically it's invoking this Python script with a few other parameters. So I just need to authorize that to run. And then once it really starts up, it's going to appear here as one of the jobs. Yeah, so it might take a second to come up. So in the meantime, I'm going to take a look at BigQuery. So in BigQuery, we create a data set, and that's a simple UI to create one. We've done that here with demo 2022-0120. And again, while that's running, just before I'll show you what the Python script is actually doing. So all of this is setting up definitions, and the key part is really here. We're reading data from our Google Cloud storage. We're reading the CSV file. We're performing a few data transformations to it, changing data types that we've set here. We're going to calculate a growth column, so we're going to add an extra column onto our data that's going to be called population increase. So add population is the definition, and what it's doing is creating population increase that's calculating the percentage increase in population from 2010 to 2020 for each of the states in my data set. Finally, we're going to write to BigQuery. And like I said, the data set is already set up. So we're writing to this data set, and we're creating a table called US population growth with the specific schema of this, which we've already predefined. Just going back to my data flow to see if the job is available to see now. Just hit refresh and see. Yeah, and you can see this job is 1 minute 58 seconds in, so that's when I ran the code. And you can see that it's completing those steps at the minute. So it's working through those steps. So what I'm going to do is go back to the slides, and I'll come back to this demo whenever that's completed. So I talked about the sort of end-to-end flow of data. What is still important is the sort of supporting cast around that, around governance and control and DevOps. Does Google Cloud meet these necessary sort of supporting tools? And yes, it does. It's got its own data catalog feature, its own key management service for your passwords and authentication codes as well. And it offers monitoring around performance and health metrics. And you can easily run DevOps through Cloud Builds for the CI/CD workflows. And there's also a code repository as well. And to focus on the AI and machine learning services, in the interest of time, I'm just going to talk about the one that I think is going to take over and become the real main tool for Google, and that's Vertex AI. So it's quite a new service from GCP, and basically it's the unified machine learning platform, and it's going to be the one place to go, the one-stop shop for all AI and ML development. It brings together AI Hub, that was sort of the previous one-stop shop you would go for data science, exploration, that type of thing, but also a lot of the tools from AutoML. So all of these along the bottom will be available in Vertex AI. And as well, it's going to bring in monitoring capabilities, feature stores, and a few other extra features as well. And the idea of it is that it's not just going to cater to the exploration phase of the machine learning cycle, but it's also going to extend to productionizing models and really driving, implementing an MLOps framework to operationalize your data models for greater return on investment, greater efficiency, and greater value from your resulting data model. And where will that fit in? That's going to fit in here, basically anywhere where you can access the data. So it's going to lift data from data stores, lift data from data query, and feedback results into these sort of data engineering, data management tools as well. So obviously, it's going to fit in pretty nicely because it's all within the one Google Cloud platform. I will come back to the demo after I run through GCP and Databricks. So GCP and Databricks, again, the theme that I've mentioned a couple of times, multi-cloud. So Databricks used to only run on AWS and Azure, but within the last year, it's now launched on Google Cloud Platform as well. And while that's great for Databricks, there's another cloud platform that it works on, it's also really great for Google Cloud because Databricks is a really trusted tool, loved tool by a lot of people, and it can plug a lot of gaps where people might not be familiar with the original GCP tools. So basically, it's going to be a very powerful pairing to be able to use open source integrated data lakehouse platform offered by Databricks. Again, like I've mentioned, the ability to run multi-cloud and run notebooks that you ran in Azure and be able to run them in pretty much the same way in GCP is going to be really valuable to a lot of people. Again, it's Databricks, so it's running both data engineering and data science workloads. The fully managed Spark experience, which is quite hard to meet. Databricks are definitely the leaders in sort of fully managed Spark workloads. It actually runs on the Google Kubernetes engine as well, so that's a major benefit for Databricks. And it integrates with BigQuery, Cloud Storage, and Looker. So if you're asking me where Databricks fits in, because of Databricks' nature of being both a data engineering and data science tool, it can really fit in anywhere. So it can fit into data storage and sort of improve on the data engineering side. So it can cleanse your data and transform your data as it moves and your data improves through the layers of your data lake. It can basically fill in that Vertex AI role and allow you to train and test your models on data that sits in both BigQuery and Cloud Storage. It has MLflow as well, so you're able to have your model registry, that all of that side around machine learning management, machine learning operations. And additionally, Databricks can host the data that you can then query with Looker. So it's going to integrate with everywhere. Databricks can really be quite a powerful tool if you're, say, unfamiliar with Google Cloud, quite familiar with Databricks, but you want to be using Google Cloud. You can almost apply a lot of what you've done with Databricks throughout the different spaces in an overall Google Cloud architecture. Going to check the data flow here, and there you can see that it has all run, and previously we only had one table in our demo data set there, and what I'm hoping is there'll be a second table. Yeah, so you can see we've got US population growth, and if I just query that there, you can see it's the same data you're seeing in the CSV file, but we've also worked out population increase as an additional column. And then just to, again, go back to the multi-cloud discussion, what I'm going to do is query that data that's in BigQuery, that US population growth table. I'm going to bring that data into Power BI. So if Power BI is the reporting tool that you're familiar with, yeah, then it's okay to be storing your data in Google BigQuery because you can query that data. Okay, so if I just fill in my project ID, and if I go back and I just copy this query, I can run that from Power BI and bring that exact data set in. So I have the option to import it or direct query. I'm going to import it. Okay. And there you have the states, each of their populations represented by the size of the bubble. And then you also have the percentage increase in the last 10 years of their population in the tooltip there showing up as well. So hopefully that gives a bit of a demo around how you can move data throughout GCP and then also bring in alternative tools as well to work with. So I will jump back to the slides here and talk about how Thorogood can help you get started. So basically, we want to help you get started. If you're technical and you think Google Cloud looks interesting from what you've seen so far, sample the functionality. Google are quite generous in terms of what they offer for a free trial. So go to cloud.google.com, create an account. The sort of most used products are actually free within monthly limits, and there's an additional $300 in free credits to test out some of their more advanced services. And then if you're maybe less technical but you think GCP could be really good for your organization, feel free to bring us in. Reach out to me, my details are there. Reach out to my Thorogood colleagues if you know them already. We're happy to discuss anything related to GCP, whether it's migration from on-prem to GCP, discussing multi-cloud and sort of what are the similar technologies where GCP can replace maybe some of what you're doing in a different cloud platform. We can help identify AI and ML use cases on GCP, and we can work with you to provide POCs for them, or even just simple demos if you need to sort of get more buy-in from people within your organization to use GCP. And then something we've been doing for a lot of organizations recently is a sort of cloud data architecture review. So we could look at what you're doing in GCP, or what you plan to do, what your strategy is, and we can suggest, we can provide our expertise on really integrating the technologies that you're planning to work with, whether it's the specific tools in Google, or whether you're trying to bring in Databricks to it, or trying to have Tableau as a reporting tool on top. We have a lot of expertise in that, and are more than happy to provide our best advice for that. Thank you for joining. Any questions, do email me. And other than that, goodbye and have a great rest of your day.